Hello and welcome to Trash Talk Podcast. I'm Sergej, I'm going to have Sergej.
Hello.
So, today we are, once again, talking about media that the other person has not consumed, presumably, and we're going to guess what it's all about.
Hopefully.
So, do you want to start off or should I?
I don't care either way. I don't remember who went first last time.
Okay, you go. Which one do you want to start on?
Let's go with, let's say, abduction. That's an interesting one.
Abduction from the creators of Myst. I don't know anything about Abduction, but I do know about Myst. So Myst is a puzzle game that involves books that take you to other realities or something. Worlds, I suppose you could say. I don't know if they're technically supposed to be alternate realities or like other planets or something. But those books then inspired a Minecraft mod called Mystcraft, which then also does that. But it doesn't have anything to do with puzzles.
Oh, that's where it comes from.
Did you literally not know that? Like, you knew what Myst was, but you didn't know where Mystcraft came from? Okay.
Yes.
The first time I heard about Myst, I was like...
I never put...
I was like, oh, you travel through books? I see where this comes from. So yeah, that is not relevant to what we're talking about right now directly, but I do like that fact. So, yeah. So, Abduction? Well, I mean, the name would suggest something like an alien abduction is, I feel like, the type that we would normally think of when we hear the word abduction.
No, that's an abduction, not an abduction. Different word.
You are correct. Huh. I don't know what this word means. That's fascinating. Let's see. Like an abnormal. Like in. Well, actually, I don't know. That's not a regular English prefix, is it? Oh, like an oblivious.
I have no idea. I can.
Oblige. There are words that start with OB.
I can give you the definition.
I'm sure. Give me the definition.
A geologic process in which the oceanic crust of the edge of a tectonic plate is thrust over the continental crust of the edge of another adjacent plate.
To be fair, I was immediately for some reason thinking of geology when you said it wasn't abduction, but I don't know why. Well,
basically, it's just like drawing or covering something with another thing.
It does almost look like this house is slightly covered by that mountain. I'm gonna say, like, big seismic event or something, like continental shift, I mean, it's in the title. We gotta do something like that. So, the world is moving, and it uncovers some mysterious Bruins, I don't know, foregone civilization sort of thing. Like, it upsets the normal status quo, and you explore. And of course, it's from the creators of Myst. In the process, you solve puzzles while being immersed in this new, stunning world. It's like nothing you've ever seen. The puzzles are maybe at some point a little too complicated or unclear, but is overall a very atmospheric and very puzzling experience.
I mean, that's pretty good. So what this game is mainly about is teleporting between different worlds, as you expect from the creators of Myst. But the way you do it is not through books, but through like plant seeds, I guess, that just teleport an area around them in a circle. Yes, you have 4 different worlds, and you have to solve puzzles by teleporting different chunks of these worlds to the other ones to complete mechanisms and stuff. Which is cool. Pretty cool. But sad thing is, the engine is not really made for that. It takes an awful lot of time just waiting in a loading screen, so If that is not a concern for you, I do highly recommend this game.
Okay, so it does sound fascinating. I always like those like shifting type puzzles, like seasons after fall. You switch between seasons. There was one of the Link games, one of the Legend of Zelda games has the time shifting mechanic, which was also then copied in Evo Land. So like I like these sort of games. So that sounds very cool as a concept. Yeah, no, that sounds fascinating. Which is not necessarily what we're talking about. We're talking about just did I guess what it's about, and I kind of did. Close that. Move over to my list, and you know what? Let's start with something that I prepared really well for, because I brought a prop.
Ooh.
So, we're talking about, let's see how well I can do this, City of Bones.
City of Bones.
That actually works surprisingly well with the camera. And of course, we do also have an image. This is not the same cover, but honestly, that's one of the reasons why I actually grabbed the book, because I did find images of this cover, but it seemed like they were all like relatively poor quality. I didn't look that deeply, because I found another one, and I also had the physical book here, but I couldn't like find a good quality version. So yeah.
Okay. Not too much to go off of. I see a cityscape, so I assume it plays in the modern times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a modern city. Yeah.
But I do see a sword in this one that you have on screen right now.
No swords in this one, but yes.
Somewhat confuses me. I also see shadow hunters.
Yes.
So, I guess there's some people that hunt shadows with medieval weapons because modern ones don't work on them or something.
I'm not sure if they ever gave a full in-universe explanation of why they use swords, but they do. I mean, one of them uses a bow or a crossbow. I think it's a bow that he uses. But like, no one actually uses modern weaponry. You are right in that aspect. I mean, it's so yeah. You kind of mentioned all the points that you saw, but like, what does that kind of create? Like, what does? I mean, you said they hunt shadows with swords in a modern city, I guess is what you said, but like,
yeah.
Do you have anything more that you want to like flesh this out with? It seems very bare bones. I mean, I've had those before. The bare bones ones.
I don't know. This thing in the background looks kind of like some sort of artifact, so they might be searching for those along the way, but I don't know.
So, first of all, you mentioned Shadowhunters, which is kind of the... I mean, it's both the main organization, but it's also, in a way, if you will, the sort of... I don't want to say series name, but the universe name, I suppose. Like, it's the Shadowhunters books. But the actual series, which it doesn't say on that cover, but it does say on this one, is The Mortal Instruments.
The Mortal Instrument, yep.
I mean, yeah, instruments, plural. It's a bit hard on the small camera frame to actually show. So, which is one of the series in the Shadowhunters verse, if you will. So there's also The Infernal Devices, and I think there's one more, and there's a couple of standalone books. That's not really important to what this is about, but
okay.
So the Mortal Instruments series specifically is about a group called Shadowhunters who do in fact hunt, not technically shadows, but they hunt primarily demons, but they do sometimes also, it's a bit more difficult with the things that aren't like entirely demon, like warlocks, which are like part demon, part human, and they also have conflict with the Fae, and then there's elves, which are like part Fae, part human, I think. It's a whole thing. It is...
okay.
It's one of those settings where you do have the real world, and then you have like a hidden world that exists on like a separate layer in a way almost. So supernatural creatures do also live in the regular world, but also just usually in like either like they're being very subtle about it, or there's like a couple places where they can be more open about it, and then otherwise they have also like their own places. So the Shadowhunters have a city called Alicante, which is situated somewhere in Europe, I think, which somehow is completely inaccessible, I think, to like other people. And
Okay.
the Fae have like their own world, and the demons have their own world. So it's like it's
is it like actual different worlds, or just like parts of Earth that other people can't access?
I think the Fae and the demons have their own dimensions that have connection points to Earth, and the Shadowhunters are just in the world, but they have the one city, and then they have different buildings that are like not exactly visible to the outside world as what they are. So like I think the building that the story takes place in, if I'm not mistaken, or that the group of Shadowhunters that we follow here lives in, is I think it's like a abandoned church or something. It's like a ruin, kind of, if you look at it as like a normal person. But then if you're like supernatural, then you see like there's actually like activity there, and it's actually not as run down as it looks.
So basically a perception filter, something like that.
Yes. Well, perception filter usually means that you don't really pay attention to it. In this case, you perceive it differently, but yeah, it is still a type of perception filter. Yeah, contemporary with a supernatural world. Again, Harry Potter-esque in a way, which makes sense, because it did kind of sort of start out as a Harry Potter fanfiction. I don't know how much of Cassandra Clare was big in the Harry Potter fandom. She wrote Harry Potter fanfiction, and supposedly that led to Shadowhunters somehow. I don't know exactly how much of that carries over, because it doesn't feel very Harry Potter, besides the fact that it is, you know, a sort of second hidden magical world that is like kind of coexisting with the mundane world. And the story is about a girl, a teenager who is actually a Shadowhunter. Like, she's descended from Shadowhunters, but she doesn't know that. She just lives a normal life, and then, you know, she discovers the world, and hijinks ensues.
I see.
Monsters and stuff, and they get involved in politics, because I guess that's the thing you do. Well, I don't think they get actually involved in politics in this book, but in one of the sequels.
I mean, who doesn't love politics?
Like, specifically Shadowhunter politics, not like mundane politics, so that would actually be kind of fun as well.
Yeah.
So, let's go to your second thing.
Yes. Let's go We Were Here. That's
okay.
Another potentially easy one.
You say potentially easy one, but this doesn't give me a lot to go off of. So, interesting title. I see a lot of snow. I see a building in the background, and I see they have what appears to maybe, I'm not sure. On the one hand, it kind of looks like a walkie-talkie. On the other hand, it kind of looks like a sort of scanning device or something with a like light bulb on top. And I mean, there's like it looks more like a walkie-talkie, but the light bulb does kind of throw me off a bit. I see two people that hold the same kind of device and wear similar clothes. I'm assuming they are somehow working together. Which would set a reason. They're walking towards the house, so maybe they're exploring, either specifically for the house or maybe more in general. It looks very wintry, and they're dressed accordingly. I'm trying to judge if the building looks like it fits into this place, but I think it does, because I was briefly considering just going like supernatural snowstorm envelops the world, sort of, but I'm not sure if that is necessary for this to work. I'm not even sure what this is. Like, it could, like, is this a game? Is this a book? I'm not even sure. I mean, there's no author in here, so I'm thinking it's a game, but
yes.
But like, this cover doesn't give that much. So okay, we're dealing with a game, a video game.
Yes, yes, we do.
And I'm saying mystery. I'm saying exploration. I'm saying limited or no combat, or at least that's sort of focus of the gameplay. I'm saying we're trying to crack a mystery of what was there, huh? So we're trying to figure out what happened in the past. Exploration, I'm thinking sort of mostly just running around picking up clues. I'm thinking maybe sort of walking simulator / point and click type thing, sort of not necessarily the most involved gameplay, but more about atmosphere and about mystery and about piecing it together. Probably because of that relatively linear. Yeah, I mean that's honestly that's the best I can do with this. There's not a lot to go.
Yeah. Totally fair. So this is a 2-player game. I'd say an asymmetric puzzle game where one person has like a bunch of solutions to puzzles they don't know about, and the other person has to solve these puzzles. It's sort of kind of comparable to Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, where one person has the solutions and one person has the puzzles, and they have to communicate which puzzle and what solutions to apply. And I think the story is they were exploring an old abandoned castle together and got trapped in there somehow. I think that's it.
Okay, so I said
also,
mystery,
if I did see that correctly, it is a free-to-play game.
Okay, so
which is pretty cool.
So I said mystery, you said puzzle. I think that's definitely different, but it is.
It's pretty close.
Kind of has the same idea.
It has the same feel.
I also will point out that it would appear as though the other character that is not in the foreground is possibly left-handed. I don't think that's like something that would matter in game.
Yes,
but that's because of how similar they looked. I was very briefly considering saying something about like time shifting or like something because we were here, right? Like, so if it's like time travel, then that would kind of make sense as a thing to say. But then I was like, one of them was right-handed, one of them was left-handed. It's not the same character, and that's how I backed away from that. But that would have been the other way I could have gone with that prompt, where it's like, you're thinking of a time machine or something, which I just briefly started playing a little bit of, which is an interesting game actually. Happened to have that on my computer.
It's pretty cool.
when I was away, so played just a smidge of that, but very interesting game. Not what this is about. Which I guess brings us to my second entry, and then we'll decide if we have enough time for the thirds. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. Okay, I'm not 100% confident. I feel like we might have done this before. If we have, then I'm just gonna use the other one, and we're definitely gonna only do 2 each.
Okay.
Have we talked about Inside Job before?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Because it was still on my list, and I should have taken it off my list, but I think I've opened this like 2 or 3 times already, so like I always had it on my list for things to talk about. But that's why I wasn't sure if we had actually done it. Inside Job.
Okay. Quite a lot of stuff that you can see.
It's a lot of information. The question is it helpful?
Yes. That is something I'm currently trying to figure out. So, Inside Job, the title, and also like all these images behind the character or in front of the character, that depict some sort of conspiracy theories. I guess at least 2 of them. I don't know about the bottom 2 that I can fully see. So don't know what the other around the edges are about.
The bottom right one that we can relatively clearly see looks like a sort of stock market trend, maybe, but I'm not 100% sure either.
It kind of does, but not too sure about that. Yeah, is it like a series explaining different conspiracy theories,
Okay, you're going.
or like playing gags on them.
That is getting closer. So I have a second image. I just was just trying to see what you get out of this one. I do have a second image. I don't know if this makes it better or worse for you.
Okay, that that rules out the explaining. That feels more like actually a group planning all these actual conspiracies and actually executing them. Probably in a very humorous and almost failing way each time.
So,
with some sort of aliens, of course, because of course there's aliens.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if Mike actually is extraterrestrial or if he was like from some hidden place on Earth. But yeah, no. So the tagline.
Wait, is he playing solitaire?
Yes. Yes.
Nice.
So it's about an organization that has to do with conspiracy theories, and yes, it is humorous. So I think the tagline, or one of the things that they said, like when they were advertising it, was like, all conspiracy theories are true. And so the idea is that, like, maybe not literally all, but like a lot of conspiracy theories are true in this world, but also the general populace doesn't know that, and this organization, I think they're responsible for at least some of them, but they are also responsible for making sure that the public doesn't really find out. So one of the things that happens very early on, as in the first episode, they're trying to replace the president with a robot, right? So that is something that they're responsible for. At the same time, there was a thing about Hollow Earth, for example, which it seemed like was there independent of them, but they were at least trying to make sure that the general public doesn't find out and try to keep it under control. So they're kind of managing the conspiracy theories, if you will.
Okay, that actually sounds fun.
Yes.
Wait, let me write that down real quick.
So
I have to watch this.
Thus far, it only has one season of, I want to say, 10 episodes, and since it's an animated comedy, I want to say 22-minute episodes, so it's like a relatively short watch. They have already renewed it for a second season, but I don't think we have a release date at all. I don't think we even have a year yet, but Netflix said second season is coming eventually, which in most cases I would say roughly a year from when the previous one came out, but Netflix, it's always a bit tricky. So he's like a mushroom man, and that guy over there is half man, half dolphin, because of course he is. Let's see. Do we want to? I think we're probably fine, actually. Let's keep the rest for another time, and let's go to the fact of the week. Sergej, what is your fact of the week?
So you've heard of this little online game that came up recently named Wordle?
I think I have, yes.
So, and you've probably also heard of like this website. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Reddit. It had like an event recently called Place or something.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think we might have briefly touched on that before. Yeah.
Yes. So it would appear that both of these were done by the same person. That person being Josh Wardle.
Okay, that's not his real name. I'm pretty sure it's not his real name.
It is.
Okay.
It's basically written like Wordle, but with an A instead of an O.
Oh, Wardle. Okay, I guess that makes a little bit more sense, but it's still wild.
So yeah, he's a Welsh software engineer.
Yeah.
He's responsible for things like r/place and r/the button or /button. I'm not sure what the separate name actually is, but also recently
Reddit.com/r/the button.
Okay. Good. And also like the hit game Wordle.
Yeah.
Just pretty cool. I did not expect these three things to be by the same guy.
I mean, button and place I kind of figured, but yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
Wordle being by the same, yeah, no, that's wild. Huh. And he has three brothers, one of whom is documentary filmmaker Tim Wardle. Which I don't know, but it says it on his Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Nice.
Now, Josh Wardle is a person that I had not heard of, but I have something to tell you about a person that you have probably heard of, and that is Alan Matheson Turing.
Okay, yes.
I
didn't know the
page when we
middle
were
name.
talking, just to check out what his middle name is. But, oh, actually, his birthday is 2 days removed from mine. His birthday is 2 days before mine. I mean, he was also born, 86 years before, but, not what I was getting at all. That has nothing to do with the fact. But that's what Wikipedia does to you, right? You just get distracted. So, I found this article called 8 Things You Didn't Know About Alan Turing, and I wouldn't quite... I don't know if 8 things was necessarily necessary, but 2 of those I want to point out in particular. So it's a 2 for 1. It's 2 facts for the price of 1. But they're both about Turing, so they have a through line. I think let's start with the athletic side of Alan Turing. Did you know that Alan Turing was rather athletic, and he was actually a really good runner?
I did not.
So, it says here, and I quote, Alan Turing achieved world-class marathon standards. His best time of 2 hours, 46 minutes, 3 seconds was only 11 minutes slower than the winner in the 1948 Olympic Games. In a 1948 cross-country race, he finished ahead of Tom Richards, who was to win the silver medal in the Olympics.
Damn.
So...
what the fuck?
And the reason why they specifically cite the 1948 Olympics, of course, is because he also ran that time, I think, in 48, though here they have... And actually, no, here the source says 47, but of course, that it would have still been the next Olympic Games after that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That is actually crazy.
Could have been an Olympic runner, probably, with those times.
Damn.
Now, he, of course, that was just more of a hobby for him. He was not a professional runner or anything. What he did professionally was more in the realm of the sciences. Now, of course, cryptography being the big one he's known for. He dabbled in various fields. One thing in particular that I find interesting is that he wrote a paper in biochemistry called The Chemical Basis of Morphogenesis, and he theorized about how cells change and develop. It's about cell differentiation as far as I understand. 6 years after the fact, a team of scientists provided some new experimental evidence that Turing was mostly right about his theories, and we talked about scientific papers before, and we mentioned that one of the key things that you look at with a successful paper is how many citations it has.
How many? Yeah.
And his paper has been cited more than 8,000 times. As a matter of fact, it links to Google Scholar. Yeah, that's just a number of results. It doesn't... Okay, well, I don't think I can find a good direct number of quotations. Because the article that mentioned it is from 2014, so he might have had more citations since. But it just links to Google Scholar, which if I... Yeah, I mean, the results are much larger, even if you exclude citations, so I don't know exactly what they're searching for. I don't know if there's any easy way to look just at citations, but...
I don't know. I haven't really used Google Scholar that much.
Yeah, anyways, doesn't matter. I just laid on the link to just see if there was an updated number, but it doesn't seem to be that case, but it has been cited over 8,000 times. The number doesn't go down. If anything, it goes up. So...
Yep.
Yeah. That is 2 fun facts.
That is actually fascinating.
He was an Olympic level runner, and He wrote a biochemistry paper that was cited over 8,000 times and was mostly correct.
Crazy dude.
Yeah. So have you heard about this game called Wordle?
I might have.
So yeah, we played this before. You either know how it works or you're gonna figure out how it works based on us playing it. I'm gonna start with you again. Or did you have some better by now?
Yes, of course. Not really.
Well, we have a letter. And we have two letters.
That we do.
I mean, I guess we could
Do
try
we want to
word
see if the
starts with
that
A
either
or U.
starts or ends with an U?
Oh wait, that doesn't end with U. Oh fuck! All the words that end with a U sound obviously end with UE, right? It's like argue. It's like no,
Yes.
it's not as well. I was trying to think.
So I guess it doesn't end with a U.
It could technically still end with a U. I'm pretty sure there are words that end with a U, but if we could try something that starts with an A and ends with a U, I think would give us the most information, because if it says there is a U in the row, that increases the odds it also starts with one. But let's see, how do words end in U? That would maybe be an interesting question. Or do they even? I mean, I feel like there should be at least some words that end in a U, but... Well, adieu ends in a U, for example. But French loanword's probably not necessarily the most common, and also I think even in French, ending in a U is maybe not that common.
We could go for something different. We could try to place an E in the second position, so we cover most of the playing field.
Yes. Okay. But I assume we want to start with either an A or a U, which will make it kind of difficult to find a word that has A, E, or UE at the beginning. I mean, we don't have to, but it would make sense to try that. That, well...
Yeah, I Hey, that works. Also testing an O.
Testing an
and
O,
an
which we
S.
haven't. And testing
I like that.
S, which we haven't, yep. By the way, for those wondering, that's an alternate spelling of eons, because you can also spell that without the A. Or with the A and the E being one letter, which I believe in English is called ash. But we do now have a lot of information, just not necessarily what we're trying to find out right now.
Yep. We do know that the second letter in the bottom row is an E, for example.
Because this can't be. Yeah, that's true.
Also that the third letter of that same row is an E. Which is interesting.
This can't be. You're right, it has to be an E. Because there has to be one in the column. The first letter obviously is an I, and then there's one here, one there. Maybe we had more than I thought. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it doesn't start with A.
Probably not.
I mean, sear and leer are the only words that come to mind that have that like double E in second position. Well, and meerkat, I think. I think those are spelled with.
Mm,
Is there a word?
I think it is. I feel like I've seen it before.
I thought so too. It tests. I mean, all the other letters besides the double E's have not been used before. Granted, I mean, I don't know. We do have to tap in at least once. I was gonna say we don't have to test for them because we know they're there, but we do still have to tap in at least once.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Oh, let's go for it.
Well, no else. But the Y happened to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
So this one has to have an A, and we strongly assume it to be in second or fourth position for the column. It cannot be in first or third, and it being in last seems kind of.
Oh, yes.
It could have a U in first. I mean, it could be other places too, but there are two U's pointing at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the word in top row could be something like unity or something if it starts with U. Because it can't be units or unite, but. Of course, having a word that starts and ends with a Y would be very spectacular. But. Let's see. There's an O and an S pointing at the center of the word in the column. But it doesn't necessarily have to be there. As a matter of fact, do we know anything else about... No, we know nothing about O's. And we know very little about S. So it's probably in the... Okay. It doesn't have a U in it, is the problem, but it would actually help us with the A and the O, but...
It would. Also tests a couple new letters.
I'm trying to think
if always good.
If we can even have the O being in the first column, because already having the U and the A in there seems like a lot. Oh. 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 Oh, broad wouldn't work, by the way. Because of the D.
I mean, yes, no Ds. Yep.
I'm thinking having something like this, like with an AU somewhere in there would work in terms of having both the A and the U in there. But there's also still the possibility of having the A and the U be non-consecutive.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's in the beginning. Right? An would be a sensible prefix. I'm not saying it has to be, but it would just make sense. We have N somewhere, but not there. And then something A. I don't know. That.
Yeah.
I just love slapping random prefixes on words. I'm pretty sure an un-oat is not a thing. But
I mean, we can sure try.
there was no way this was gonna be a thing. You know what is a thing, though?
Yeah, not the right language, is it? Or is it a thing in English too?
I'm pretty sure U-boat is a thing because of the success of German submarines in the World War. I'm just not sure if they would spell it the German way or if they would spell it boat the English way. I have heard I have heard him speak as a U-boat before. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. If that's the case, let's go for it.
If this is a legal word, we should try it, right? Well, it's not. If it's double O, that doesn't help us because we need an A in there.
No, it would actually help us in terms of placing the O.
I mean,
in the second row, but it's not that much.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, things. I'm coming up with more words that have the OA combination, but usually it's something like soap, right? Which is like, I can't just make you soap a thing. I said I can't make. Okay, cool. But that is how soap is spelled, right? Hey, I mean, it doesn't have to start with a U, but I feel like it should maybe start with a U. Other thing is, we could try figuring out what this letter could be based on the fact that we have it on the bottom row, and if we assume that there's an A here, which doesn't have to be, but if we assume the U is up there, which again it doesn't have to be, but if you assume this setup, then if we know the last letter, I'm sure that would give us a big hint at what it could be. And it can't be S
might
or
be
L.
True.
D?
Teeny?
This is... I mean, this is some 1984 shit, but like, unsaid.
Why not?
Wait, no, that wouldn't be... No, they replaced the negative things, right, by just having un in front of a positive thing. No.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like unsaid. Does it? I mean,
And try it.
the S points there.
I thought of it before, but I don't think that will work.
Wait, you said G as the for like something like genie, which I think is spelled differently, but
Teeny tiny.
unsat. Huh? Like to sit. Like I sat, and then I stood up. I basically unsat.
Unsat.
I mean, obviously, both the U and the A are still guesses in their positioning.
Wouldn't Jiri also be a thing?
So we are saying unsag. You know.
No, with a J. Not. But we. Okay, never mind. We can't have an R in the between the E and
that
Y.
as well, yes. I guess I do kind of like T. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. T, right? I do like that. But if we're assuming that the U and the A go there, which, pure guess, if you have a better idea, go ahead. It does kind of limit us in what it can be.
But I found a word that would fit in there. Not with a U in this first position, but in the second.
I mean,
but it's not going to be the correct one because it has an R in the end. It's going to be sugar.
Okay. I mean, obviously, as you said, it's not correct, but it is still interesting. Can we make this word somehow? So the first thing I was thinking is say it. So sometimes you can change a word slightly, or you can make like related words or words that rhyme or something. But like sugar.
Can't think of anything.
No, I don't think I can either. I mean, using the R there means it's definitely wrong, but it would still give us information about R's in the row or column. But it is definitely wrong in both positions while we do type it in. So it's not great, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
Give us extra information about the A and the R and the U. It tries S's, which we haven't tried at all in this corner of the map. And it tries G's, which we haven't at all. I don't hate it. I always prefer trying to guess things that could be right, but you know, how about we just use it and then see where we go from there?
Sounds good to me. At least we can move on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, we found a lot about the first row. Gonna remove those hints again because, well, yeah, this is an A. That's good to know. I guess central column would be a good starting place, in theory, but we also don't have any information. Like, there's two S's pointing at the center, so like it wouldn't be unreasonable to assume that there's an S there, but that's but like that's not very strong. We don't have anything that we know has to be in the central column except for the S, because the E is already in there.
And also no E's in the entire row.
No E's in the row, yes. No O's in the column or G's in the column, which is column or row for the G's, as a matter of fact. So for the row, we actually know it has to have an S and an O in it, which might almost be better information. So the S has to be one of the center three, which isn't that helpful. The O probably go just about anywhere. Yeah, this is literally the only square we tried an O in, so. Huh. No E's nor A's, no I's. One O, maybe two, who knows? How do we feel about a U right here?
Feels kind of weird
It does, doesn't
with
it?
the column.
Well, I mean, dual would be a word, but it's also the only one I come up with, and there can't be a D. But dual, yeah, no, that's probably about it. It's probably not going to end in a U. We said that before, so I guess a row has an S in one of the central three, possibly in the very center, an O somewhere, and no A's, E's, or I's, which feels like it should give us kind of a lot to work with, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the vowels are very restricted. You can only have O's, U's, and Y's.
How about tough? I think that fits everything.
It doesn't have an
No,
S.
no G's. Shit. Also no S's.
So yeah, we would need something that doesn't have the G but does have the S. Also, if anything, we would have probably been better off with rough. Because there has to be an R somewhere in the first column.
Makes sense, yeah.
I mean, obviously, we can always refine once we have a word, but
Mm-hmm.
It's spelled like that, isn't it? Louse. That doesn't help. Same with mouse, for that matter. Because we don't have the E at the end.
Is rouse a word? Feels like a word.
I mean, I think maybe, but it would still be this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, no E's at the...
no E's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a problem if we try to go with something like rogue. Not again, no S's, of course, but like rogue is like this. Wait, no, that was rouge is like this, and rogue is like this, right? It's just
Yeah. Why don't go with rogue? Like, actually.
because it doesn't have an S. And
yes, no G's.
And you can't have an E or a G. So there's actually plenty of reasons.
Yes.
But the S is in the wrong spot. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, technically, I think I have a word. It doesn't have the U in it, but there's no reason to have a U in it. Roost. You know, like the place where a rooster, for example, would sleep in his roost.
Yep.
Is a word. It does check for S in both the row and the column. It does check for the R in the first column.
Mm-hmm.
The middle O is obviously not allowed. Yeah. So we should make it roast. No, but the A would also not be allowed. Because same problem. Fuck, I forgot that you can't have no in some. Roust? Is that a word? We'll go back to trust triangles.
Try it.
Apparently it is.
It is. So no T's.
I mean, no T's and
Good
no
to
S's
know.
here, so we got the O. I mean, we have information that's useful from this.
Yeah.
It feels underwhelming, but it still gave us something.
The R is in the second spot of the first column.
Oh, because
we know that
first, yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the things we found out. Also, there has to be a U in the central column, which
or in the last one.
I mean, it could technically be here, but it's more likely here, which also would mean that there's a U here. Which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know that for sure. But obviously, I'm like, I don't know, Indu?
Now we actually know that the first letter in the first row or column is actually a U.
First
letter because it cannot be in the center.
Row or column has to be a U because there can't be a U here or there or there. What about here?
I don't know about the column. Because we can't exclude it from the column.
Can't go there. Can't go there. Okay, yeah. I mean, that looks like we're very close to having a word there. As a prefix. See, I was so focused on un that I completely forgot about I mean, it's, to be fair,
also the very center tile had to be an S.
Because no S is there, or there. Yeah.
What else can we?
So it's issue.
Can we get?
Right, it's issue in the central column. ISSUE.
Yes, that would make sense. Yeah.
In which case, the second letter of the right column would be a U. I'm gonna write it in despite the fact that we don't know it for sure, but I'm like fairly confident that there's not another U there at the very least. So, so how were you feeling about teeny? Because you do have the actually
the
now
second
as well. Or did we have that before?
The second letter of the first row is an S.
The second letter of what row? I didn't acoustically.
The first row.
Well, right. Second letter of a row. Which one could it be? Yeah. Right, because it's the only place that it can go now that U is there. Oh, wait, even before. Yeah.
Yep. We have a lot of stuff.
I mean, the USI combination still is a little weird to me, but it is certainly correct. Yep. So, because A usurp is spelled with a U and B it does have an R in it as well. So, I'm gonna ask you again because I still don't think we have anything more clever we can do right now. How do you feel about teeny, which you mentioned earlier? TEE.
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to just kind of try that, and then because I don't think we could do something much more clever with this. Well, actually, we can. Right. Wait.
Mm-hmm.
If we assume that this is the correct word, we want to guess. Oh, no T's. Actually, no T's. Never mind. I just realized no T's.
All right. Yes.
Meanie,
Good
miny,
point.
mo.
I kind of forgot.
I don't know. Meanie is probably spelled with an A, isn't it? But I mean, I still kind of like the idea of the N there. It doesn't necessarily have to be one because it could also be you sin something. Up top. But one of those two has to be an N.
Mm-hmm.
We have never tried an N in the first row, have we? Huh.
We have not.
That would have been useful right about now. So, weenie.
That works.
I think it's a word. Teensy weensy. Every single letter I think that we've tried when trying to solve the bottom row in the first place just was. Oh no, wait.
Oh, hey, it's an
we
N.
Never tried. Wait. We never tried T there. But yeah, like, every letter that
It
we
is
thought
an
could be
N.
there is just like, nope.
Yep.
Okay, so this is an N.
And the other one too. It only has one other place to go.
Wait, the other one too? What?
That's the same hint.
The same hint?
The same hint
yeah.
you used.
Okay! Urban.
Yep. Yep.
I think I'm just gonna try it. I don't think we can be much smarter about this. So
Don't think so.
unless we could
We
somehow
have
replace
way
the
too
A.
many.
But like, I don't think so.
Nah. Not worth it.
I mean, we would
I
want to replace it
think.
with an N anyway, so it doesn't really. We can't make this a word, so. Urban. Bonus gas. We were desperately needing those. Okay. Redundant A.
Do we just do issue? Or do we go for information?
I mean, it's one of those things where, again, I don't think there's any other way for us to type an issue, like the letters for issue, without actually typing it out. So,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I don't love doing it, I think it's probably our best bet right now. Well, we already knew about the S up there, and
Yep.
the one there, so that's not really new information. Oh, yeah, by the way, hint hiding is like one of my favorite features that was added. Like, it's really useful.
Yeah.
It's still kind of messy, but with all the duplicate hints hidden,
It colors a lot.
and like all of the black hints and the green hints gone, it's just. The next thing would be to just have 3 automatic settings where it's like always hide green hints, always hide black hints, and always hide redundant hints.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, redundant as in literally just like the same hint in the same square twice. If you want to make it a little bit smarter, you can make it so that if you have one hint with 2 arrows and one hint with 1 arrow, you always hide the one with 1 arrow, but still keep the other one. But you could also just be like, they're not identical, so we'll just keep both. But yeah, so that's a feature request, in case you're watching. Which I know you sometimes are.
Hmm. Oh, needy.
Oh, needy. I was gonna say maybe an L, but yeah, it's needy, isn't it? So this is one that we might be able to be smart about, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second question. Do you maybe know what the top word is?
No fucking clue. It's only missing one letter.
I
have
know.
no idea what it could be.
Okay, yeah, let's see. You think, you sign. Well, you
Oh,
see.
it's a G. It has to be a G.
Using. A. Oh, it has to be a G, right? Using. Okay.
Yep.
I don't think we can make something that's like fully that a word that has the G and the U and the D in it. But we could probably guess something besides needy that still gives us extra information for the column. I think that's our goal right now.
Mm-hmm.
Get the extra guess and get some hint. I'm thinking guppy, as in the fish. I think golly is also a word, which would presumably come from German, but like gollywag or something. I've seen somewhere in one of the horse parts. I think it was like something with golly in there. So there might be a word. So I guess we'd want to try for maybe if there's a P in there, if it's guppy, that would be a good guess, right? So like something like, I think, potty. I mean, it wouldn't even have to necessarily be that, right? It could just be, well, the D would have to be in that spot, though.
No L's.
No L's?
Yeah.
No L's in the column?
The entire game.
Oh, the entire game, right. So guppy would be the... Okay, so we're just trying like something like potty just so that we have a P in the column and see if there's a P in the column.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good to me.
No P's in the game. Okay. So we got needy, which is what our main purpose was. And no P's, so it's not guppy. Or, I don't know. So, but, I mean, using, obviously. I don't think we can do much anything else with that. Especially that gives us information, because the only information that we could get would be if we replace the I with something. Which I'm just going to say is probably
doesn't really help us in.
Is it? Because if we replace the I with something, then we could maybe get a hint for what it could be in the square. But also, it can't be an A.
Oh.
It can't be an E. It could be an O, but it seems unlikely. But like, use song, is that a word? It's not. Right? And then, can't be an A, can't be an E. Can't be an I, but that's obviously the correct letter here. I don't think we can do something particularly clever with this. I'm sorry.
No. Yep.
Using
let's do that.
So now the question is, what are these two remaining words? More importantly, first one, BOS. We know for a fact there's only one S in there, because we actually tried double S when we tried issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one S, because otherwise we would have had a double arrow somewhere.
I guess.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So, like, I think when we type this one, should have 2 arrows because that's when we type the issue because there's a green one right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that case, this one should have 2 arrows if there was another S somewhere in here. I don't think it's particularly useful.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
literally essence blocking both those anyway, so I'm just an idiot for rationalizing it the complicated way. But nonetheless, okay, fair enough. Was... Well, no... I'll be... Boy... Wait, is there no vowels? Maybe why, but like... Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I, A, E, U. So it could only be another O or a Y.
Yep.
And it can't be boson because no extra N. Not that I'm not even sure if that would be a word, technically, because it's a name.
It is a name.
But, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean something, right? Because if it became a word, then it would... Because, like, Higgs boson, right? So I'm not sure if it would...
Yeah.
If it would allow boson as a word, but it's definitely not the word.
Yes.
Bossy can't be it because of the S. Also, then the word would be like something like guy, something Y on the right column. Using urban issue. So that's where all of the words that we got were pretty easy. Like, maybe not easy to get, but they were like simple enough words to know. Bose something. Because if it's boss something, it will probably be spelled with double S, right? So Bose no T's. Bose Bosch something maybe. Bosch Boshy Bosho Bosch Bosk Bos Spogs Bos 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 no Bos. I mean, honestly, with what we have, this almost seems like the most promising. And then we'd have to almost have a vowel, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
I said it was the most promising. I didn't say it was right.
Yeah.
What letter do you think is most likely to follow on BOS?
A T, but it cannot be.
Okay, let's exclude the possibility of W, T, P, L, N, S, D, G, I, A, E, and U? And then give it the most
let me write it down. So it can be a Q, it can not be an E, it can not be an R, it can be a P, it cannot be a Y.
Could be a
it
Y.
can be a Y.
It can't be a U, it can't be an I, it can be an O.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be P.
Cannot be a P.
It cannot be A, it can
no
not
A's,
be S.
no S, no
cannot
D.
Be D. Could be F. I don't think it is, but it could be.
Could be G.
Could be G, yes. Could be H, which
Could
both
be
of my favorites.
H.
Could be J, could be K.
J, K, no
Z,
L.
X, C, V. These all the ones that are like middling gray on the keyboard are just obviously possible. It could be another B.
Yeah.
It cannot be N.
Cannot be an N.
And it could be M.
That's 14 letters. That could be.
And I think, if anything, the constraints for the last letter are even tighter.
Let's try that. Q. No R. No E. No R. No T.
Y is still possible.
Perhaps a Y.
No U, no I, no O, no P, no A, no S, no D. F is obviously still possible. I guess G is still possible as well, yeah.
G too, yeah.
H, J, K.
H, J, K.
Not L. Z, X, C, V.
Z, X, C, V.
Let's see, is B possible? B is still possible, but N is not. And then M is. So I think the only difference is that N is not possible in the last spot, but it isn't. Oh no, N is not possible either. Is it the same list?
It's not the same list. No O's in the last one.
Actually,
wait.
Could be O, we just didn't write it down. Sorry. Sorry, I said no. I said no O's.
It is the same list.
No vowels, but it's the same list. Okay. I mean, in some ways it makes it easier, but that does mean that there is sort of, what is it? 180, 16, 196. I should have known that by heart, probably. There's 196 different possibilities, technically, which is a bit much to brute force.
I mean, we can probably exclude a lot of the unreasonable ones, like Q or
J,
Z.
Yeah, maybe even X.
Or J.
I mean, if we're including 4 letters, we're already excluding half of the possibilities, right? We're going from 196 to 100. So, like, in terms of brute forcing, excluding letters, especially from both spots, is very powerful. It's still a lot, though.
It is.
Honestly, I'm kind of tempted to just brute force the O possibilities for now, because that should only be 14. Well, now that I'm thinking this.
Yes.
Type of soy. Okay, where was I? A. Q, not W, not E, not R, not T, not Y. That's not even Y on my keyboard.
Should I just read out the letters?
Sure.
Q you tried, Y you tried, O you tried, F, G,
H, J, and
J, K,
Z,
Z,
X, C, V. B was also on there, right?
B, M. Yeah.
B and M. Bosom. Wait, is that how bosom is spelled? Like bosom? Is that how that's spelled?
That
That's
I
not the
think.
normal spelling. It's double S, if anything.
No, double S seems wrong.
Okay, so let's solve the thing really quickly, and then, so, yeah, it was gummy, by the way, the last word, in case you were wondering.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go screenshot mode.
Man.
Hey. Bosom. The chest of a human. Yeah, no, this is just how bosom is spelled, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I somehow blanked on that. Like, this is a word that I'm obviously familiar with. It's a bit...
Yes.
I would say it's a bit archaic, but, it's certainly not an unreasonable word. But, like, somehow... I mean, it's not even pronounced bosom, right? It's like oh, bosom or something. Like you don't pronounce it with an O. I mean, obviously, it is... It's one of those words, I think, where the pronunciation threw me off when I was trying to sound out the possibilities. But I was right to try O's. Because that seemed, after
which is good.
H seemed like the best possibility, and H would have had to be followed by a vowel almost, so. Second topic, now that we've been gone for like an hour 20. I mean,
nice.
They always end up being like 2 hours lately, so it's not that out there.
I mean, we were spending a lot of time on Squirtle.
I mean, yeah, we struggled a lot with, and again, like, all of these were words that I know. It's not like they threw words in that it was unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Like, normally, we struggle with words that we don't know. This time we struggle with words that we do know, including using. Because...
Yep.
Is just a very different sound from N, right? So, using does not necessarily... I've been using... Okay, yeah, no, it does actually very logically to using, because you would colloquially sometimes just drop the G anyways. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
There really isn't a good excuse for that one. Like, the bosom one I feel like is more excusable. But the using one seems... Especially since, as you pointed out, like, just by the rules of the game, G was the only possibility.
Yep. That...
What country has the most interesting history?
Funny. I don't know, like the older ones, just because there is more of it.
I mean, I was actually kind of low-key thinking the other way around in a way, right? So not necessarily something like the US, where obviously they're like very more recently. So I mean, there were people there before, but like most of that history is lost. So yeah, but
yeah,
I would generally tend to go either Europe or Asia, because those were the ones that wrote most of their stuff down. So, whereas in Africa, like North Africa kind of as well, but a lot of other places like Sub-Saharan Africa or the Americas didn't really have a lot of writing that like survived until today. Or in general, I think most of those places didn't necessarily have writing before they came in contact with Europeans or Asians. So that kind of limits just... Not necessarily that their history would be less interesting, but just of what we can know of their history would be more interesting. And then...
Okay, yeah.
I feel like in terms of Europe, a lot of the more recent states might have more interesting history because they kind of used to be multiple states, right? Like, Germany probably has a lot of very interesting history because it used to be like over 1,000 states, probably literally. I don't know if it was actually over 1,000, but like, you know, how like, there's a bunch of like, like duchies and like counties and whatnot. Like, there's just a bunch of like really small things that made up Germany. Italy has a very similar point where Italy as a nation is very recent, but a lot of the, not as many parts before, but a lot of very interesting parts as well. And then you have like Switzerland, also kind of, but I don't know that much about them, to be honest. But like, they also like the cantons, I think, used to be more independent, but also Switzerland is barely a country as it is. And so in a lot of ways, those that are like, or like a lot of other ones, like Spain, I think, existed for a long time. like as more or less Spain. I think Portugal used to belong to them at some point, and like that they were at one point conquered by the Moors, but like for the most part, Spain has been a country for a while, and so
Yep.
I think some like I mentioned the European examples, of course. In the Asian examples, you could point at China, for example, has a very interesting history of like just being multiple places for like a long time, right? Like you have the Three Kingdoms period, you have before that as well, like I don't know if you've seen what is it, A Brief History of the World or whatever it was called, the funny explainer of like world history. We can make a religion out of that.
Yes.
And like whenever China's like, oh, they broke apart.
The entire history of the world, I guess.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, it's like China's
or something like that,
and reassembling, and also China's huge, right? I think in general probably bigger nations because there's just more area to have history in and more people to have history with. And then I think the more complicated like their territorial changes are, the more interesting in some way, especially if they have unifications, because those join disparate peoples into interesting history.
Yeah.
I would say that I find any one particular nation to have the most interesting history, but I feel like that is like the kind of things that would drive interesting history. I mean, obviously, Germany would be a low-key and easy. I know more about German history because I'm German, right? So like, I'm a bit biased, of course, but Germany would be an interesting point just because like around the time of like the Holy Roman Empire and whatnot, like just the sheer amount of different political entities that were around, and then also very central players in both world wars. So Germany had a colonial history, which isn't necessarily positive, but it certainly makes it more interesting because there was African colonies of Germany as well. Obviously, those were lost after the First World War, and then a lot of territory was ceded after the Second World War as well. So, a lot of very interesting history in that regard. But then again, saying that having different peoples is not necessarily that accurate for Germany as well, because even though there were a lot of different jurisdictions, the German peoples were always kind of like one people in a way.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
It really is.
If I want to add something like that's very out of left field, I would say the Vatican. Vatican itself is a relatively new concept, but before that we had the Papal States, which are effectively the direct predecessor, which controlled a lot larger part of Italy, and then of course you have the entire Pope history and is directly linked to the Catholic Church. So you have both a religious institution and a government, which at the time wasn't that separate anyways, but there's some very interesting stories about the different popes and whatnot. And because it is like inherently a religious position that happens to also have a secondary sort of land ownership aspect of it, makes it a little bit more interesting in some ways. I don't know. Like, this is supposed to be a closed-ended question, right? But I feel like there is so many, and I guess anything that used to be a huge empire, right? Like, if you have something like Britain or France, they have very interesting history just because like they used to own half the world.
Yep.
What's your favorite key on the keyboard?
I don't know.
So,
I wish I had like a tracker of how many times I've pressed the key, so I could use that statistic to.
So I kind of do, right? Not precise, but I kind of do because my old laptop had like some sort of coding on the keycaps or something. I don't know exactly, but like you can see the wear on some of the keys, and you could very clearly see that the most worn keys are like WASD and like spacebar.
Yep.
Right. So
obviously,
I think there was also like a little bit of like
shift too,
like escape and F11, and I think shift and control aren't as bad also because they're larger keys and as opposed to the spacebar, I don't keep hitting the exact same spot. So because like the spacebar, you can tell it's like all is like in the bottom left corner, right? Like it's always like not like exactly the corner, but like bottom left because I'm thumbing it right while I'm WSD, thumb for
yeah.
space. And you can tell. Like, that is where the space bar is pressed. A lot. But just because I use it the most, right, doesn't mean it's my favorite. I guess control.
I don't know.
Right?
Control, Shift, Alt, that kind of stuff. Another interesting one to pick would be scroll lock, because it's like not used anymore for like very, very old programs. And like, yeah, scroll lock also has the added feature of having a light, which you can misuse for different things, like starting and stopping a recording, like I do.
I have it for starting and stopping the replay
if
buffer.
I see the scroll lock, so if I see a scroll lock light on my keyboard, I know I am currently recording, which is useful.
I mean, for control,
I don't have to set up anything separately.
Because probably some of my favorite key combinations are stuff like, Control C, Control V, Control X, Control A, sort of stuff. You could also see a little bit of the use on some of these
That's true.
buttons. I guess
they generally control keys, not specifically key control, but like control keys, like Control Shift, Alt.
Yeah. Alt Graph. I also can tell that, based on the fact that my keyboard is slightly dusty again, that F11 and F4 are like the only F keys that I use.
Yep.
I think sort of a dark horse pick would be something like the I forget again. What are they called? They're not called picture up and down. What are they called? I forget it again. I looked it up before.
Page up, page down.
Page up, page down keys.
I think.
Those ones, yeah. Page up, page down, and like end and position 1, like those 4 keys. Very useful for navigation.
I think it's called home and end.
Home and end, okay.
The position end. The position 1 end.
Okay, home is actually kind of a bad name for it. I actually like the German one where it says position 1.
Yeah.
Because it does take you to the beginning of the line, and if you then press Control, it takes you to the beginning of the document.
Also, like insert and delete, pretty useful.
I barely use those. I'm more of a backspace kind of person, and I don't really use insert. I actually don't even like insert that much.
I mean, insert is I use rarely if I want to replace text.
Yeah, obviously that's what.
That's kind of roughly the same length.
But I always find it very annoying. I'd much rather just delete the text and rewrite it, because it never is the exact same number of letters, right? And it's I don't know. Another button. Oh no, it's not a keyboard.
If I don't want my IDE to scream at me while I'm retyping a variable name, it's kind of useful.
Okay. Another one that I do tend to use a lot is play pause, which is like a media button, which I personally don't have on my keyboard, but I have it on my mouse.
I don't have. Yeah.
Which I found very useful. But yeah, I mean, it's really just a lot of that stuff, right? I find the movement ones a lot very useful. The page up, page down ones, I find very useful, because oftentimes when you're trying to go through something larger, especially something like a spreadsheet or something, it's just a lot easier than scrolling.
Another interesting pick would be F13 through F24, which aren't even on the keyboard, but are actual keys that you could technically press.
I'm still kind of looking
They're recognized by like
it seems that
all the
software that comes with my mouse systems doesn't support them. Because
that's weird.
To configure my mouse buttons to be like F13 or 14 at the very least, so that I could then use those to do stuff like switching scenes. That's the word I was looking for. Like I've done before, right? When I'm showing the screen versus when I'm showing us. So I have those on my mouse as the first 2 keys, but the mouse thinks I'm pressing Alt 1 and Alt 2 because that's what I have configured to way back when as the scene switching key, because I can't set it to F13 and 14. Right? And then OBS notices that I'm pressing Alt 1, Alt 2, and then it switches the scene accordingly. But it would be so much cooler if it could be F12 and F13, because then it doesn't conflict with anything. F13 and 14. F12 would be. So Alt 1 and Alt 2 don't really do anything most everywhere except for when you're in a folder. Because then, I think, what is it? Alt 1 is detail and Alt 2 is create a new folder or something? No, I think it's literally just the first and second option, right? Which can change.
I don't know.
But yeah, no, it's just not perfect, but it works. How many movies do you watch in an average week? On average in a week, that's what it says.
I don't know, 0.0000 something, maybe?
I'm more of a TV show guy, right? So, movies, I would say, I mean, just throw it as low as you made it sound, but probably less than one, though I used to sometimes go to the movie theater with Joe, which, whole thing. But at that time, I would probably watch more than a movie a week on average. But now for a while, it's less than one again. And there are occasionally films that I want to watch, but it's not like I have once a week that a movie comes out that I want to watch. Right now I mostly watch the Marvel movies. And that's about it. So they release 4 movies a year? So, do the math. I think it might not even be 4. Now, TV shows, I probably watch 3 or 4 episodes a day. But movies, not so much.
4 divided by 52 is 0.077-ish.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the occasional other movie, but still. Right? It's like, have it be less than 0.2 probably still. That's kind of. Sure, let's do one more. And then we'll call it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how corrupt do you think the government... Oh, sorry, your government is. I was just going to make that whole argument about what government are we talking about, but your government. So, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how corrupt do you think the Russian government is?
That's a very interesting question.
For legal
say
reasons.
Somewhere between a 9 and 10.
I was going to say, for legal reasons, I'm not sure if Sergej can answer this. Okay, for me, of course I have a different government. I'm a German citizen, so the German government is my government, I suppose. You could argue that the EU government is also my government, but less impactful. And then, the UN doesn't really have any power, so. I don't know. So, I think there are definitely plenty of places out there where government corruption is a lot worse than Germany. But I'm not going to pretend like there's none either. Right? There has been that whole thing where it was like a couple of years ago, maybe a decade by now, where a lot of politicians were simultaneously looked at a bit closer because they were being paid a lot of money to give speeches at corporations, at corporate events and stuff, and they were paid a lot of money for holding speeches. And some people have suggested that maybe the money wasn't necessarily for the speeches themselves, but for maybe furthering corporate interests. I'm not sure if anything definitive has been found about that, but I'm just saying it looks a bit weird. Also, I don't know what standards are in Germany, but any government that allows their politicians to trade stocks is kind of almost corrupt by design, right? Most countries do, right? Most countries do not have rules forbidding their politicians from trading stocks, which means that oftentimes they'll have information before the general public does, which is effectively insider trading, and sometimes they make policy decisions that can affect those stocks, right? So even if it's not corrupt in the traditional sense where someone's directly paying them for something, they certainly do have a conflict of interest there.
Yep.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I guess 0 would be no corruption, and 10 is whatever the most corrupt government, and I guess 10 would be almost straight up authoritarianism, right? So, I guess in a weird way, authoritarianism is less corrupt, because is it so corrupt if you're being open about it? Right? I guess the German government probably is more in a 2 or 3 sort of range. I don't think it's that bad.
roughly the same range I would have put it at.
Yeah. Then again, I'm not an expert on this. But what I am an expert on is the structure of this podcast, which means I know for a fact that our next segment is the Songs of the Week. Hey!
Hey!
Sergej! Why is this
Okay, let's completely butcher the same. My song of the week is Coupé de Cire, Coupé de Sang by... Shit, the name's cut off. France Gall. Or Gal.
I have definitely heard this before.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar
I
with
did
it.
kind of expect that.
But yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I feel like it already sounds old, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, it does sound kind of outdated, if you will.
It kind of does. I mean, it is old. It's, I think, from 65. So,
Yeah,
quite a few years.
To be around there, yeah.
Recently heard it for the first time.
Okay.
I found it kind of catchy, so but why not? Pretty good song of the week.
My song of the week I have known for a longer while, and as a matter of fact, I've kind of known the song itself longer than I have this particular version of the song. So my song is Land of Confusion. You might know it from Genesis, but I chose for the song of the week the cover by Disturbed.
I'm not sure if I remembered this or not.
I mean, the
sounds kind of familiar, but like at the same time, not really.
I mean, it is a cover, right? So the Genesis version is far more well known and popular. This one is just like a more like I don't want to say heavier, but like it's more like a sort of hard rock metal sort of version of what is normally more like a pop rock sort of song. I'm not an expert on like the genre delimitations, but
yeah, me neither.
It's just a bit harder than the regular version. I like both, but I chose this one. Mostly because when I was picking out songs this week, I was listening to a Disturbed song and I was like, Disturbed. Yeah? And then I was like, not that one though. And then I looked at the other songs that I had of theirs and this was the one that won for today. Speaking of today, today's episode of the Trash Talk Podcast is coming to a close. And if you enjoyed it, you can leave a like. If you have something to say, you can leave a comment. If you want to contact us more directly, then, Discord is your friend. And, there's something about subscribing. You probably want to subscribe. Sergej.
That's it?
That's it.